The observation deck of the Galactic Ark fell silent as Nora Ellis walked into the containment arena. The 7-year-old human girl wore nothing but her worn sneakers, faded overalls, and a bright yellow backpack that seemed comically oversized on her tiny frame. Her brown hair was pulled into 2 messy pigtails, and her eyes sparkled with the kind of fearless curiosity that made most alien species deeply uncomfortable. "This is madness," hissed Coordinator Vexthal, his crystalline carapace flickering with anxious purple light. "The human child will be consumed within seconds. We must abort this demonstration immediately." Ambassador Thora of the Zentari Collective clicked her mandibles in agreement. Her species had ruled 3-star systems for millennia, and never once had they witnessed such reckless disregard for survival protocols. The human delegation assured us their species understood the gravity of this situation. That creature has killed 47 trained warriors across 6 species. It is unkillable, untrainable, and utterly merciless. On the arena floor below, separated by 6 inches of transparent durasteel, Kraith stirred. The apex predator was a nightmare given flesh. 12 feet of corded muscle, obsidian scales, and razor-sharp claws that could shred through reinforced armor like tissue paper. Its 6 eyes glowed with predatory intelligence, and its triple-hinged jaw could swallow a fully grown Zentarii whole. Krath had been discovered on a death world in the Omega Sector, a planet where even the plants had evolved to kill. For 3 standard years it had been the Galactic Ark's greatest shame, a creature they could neither control nor destroy, kept alive only because killing it would violate a dozen interspecies treaties. Nora tilted her head, studying Krath with the same intensity she might give to a new puzzle. The creature's eyes locked onto her, and a low rumble emanated from deep within its chest, a sound that had preceded the death of every living thing that had entered its domain. "Fascinating," whispered Dr. Chen from the human delegation's booth. "She's not showing any fear response whatsoever. No elevated heart rate, no cortisol spike. It's as if she doesn't recognize the threat." "Or," suggested Dr. Okonkwo quietly, "she doesn't perceive it as one." Nora unzipped her backpack and pulled out a small rectangular object wrapped in plastic. She carefully peeled back the wrapper, revealing what appeared to be some form of processed food. The scent drifted through the arena's ventilation system, sweet, artificial, utterly alien to every species present. Krath's nostrils flared. The rumbling stopped. "What is that substance?" demanded Coordinator Vexthal. "A granola bar," Dr. Chen replied, fighting back a smile. "Chocolate chip, if I'm not mistaken." Nora broke off a piece and held it up, examining it with the critical eye of a master negotiator. Then, moving with the deliberate slowness of someone who had spent her entire short life around animals, she tossed the piece toward Kraith. The apex predator could have lunged, could have struck. Instead, it watched the morsel arc through the air and land 3 feet from its massive claws. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then, with movement surprisingly delicate for such a massive creature, Kraith lowered its head and sniffed. The arena's atmospheric sensors detected something unprecedented. Kraith's aggression pheromones had decreased by 40%. Nora sat down cross-legged on the arena floor, completely exposed, and took a bite of her own granola bar. She chewed slowly, maintaining eye contact with the creature that had terrorized the galaxy's finest warriors. Then she smiled. Not the nervous smile of prey, but the genuine, open expression of a child delighted by a new friend. Krath ate the piece. The observation deck erupted in chaos. Alarms blared. Security protocols demanded immediate intervention. Ambassador Thora was demanding the child be extracted immediately, while Coordinator Vexthal argued that moving now might trigger the predator's hunting instincts. Through it all, Nora remained perfectly calm. She stood up, brushed the dust from her overalls, and walked closer. Not cautiously, not with the calculated movements of a trainer, but with the easy confidence of someone approaching a neighborhood dog. "Humans," she said conversationally, as if Kraith could understand her, "we're really good at making friends. My mom says it's because we used to live with wolves. Did you know that? Thousands of years ago we found these scary animals and we said, let's be buddies. And now they're called dogs and they sleep on our beds." She offered another piece of granola bar, this time from her hand. Kraith could have bitten off her entire arm. The creature's jaw possessed enough force to crack starship hull plating, Every species in the galaxy had protocols about keeping minimum distances from apex predators. Every species except humanity, apparently. The massive predator lowered its head. Gently, impossibly gently, it took the granola from Nora's tiny palm with the very tip of its tongue. Careful not to touch her skin with its razor-sharp teeth. "Good boy," Nora said, reaching up to pat the creature's snout. Krath's eyes closed. A new sound emerged from its chest. Not a growl, but something closer to a purr that resonated through the arena's superstructure. The apex predator, the unkillable horror from a death world, lowered itself to the ground and rested its massive head near the child's feet. Nora climbed onto its back. "Absolutely not," Ambassador Thora's voice cracked with horror. "Security, extract the child immediately." "Wait," Dr. Okonkwo said firmly. "Just wait." Nora sat atop Krath like a queen upon her throne, her small legs barely spanning a fraction of the creature's massive width. She leaned forward and whispered something that the arena's sensors couldn't quite capture. Whatever she said, Krath responded by slowly rising to its feet, moving with exaggerated care to ensure the small human remained secure. Then, with Nora giggling with delight, Krath began to walk in a slow circle around the arena. "Evolutionary theory suggests," Dr. Chen said into the stunned silence, "that humans didn't just domesticate animals. We co-evolved with them. Our ability to read facial expressions, to project intent through body language, to form bonds across species barriers. It's not just cultural. It's written into our DNA. We're a species that looked at wolves, at horses, at birds of prey and asked, 'Will you be my friend?' And somehow, impossibly, they said yes. But this is an apex predator from a Class X death world," Coordinator Vexthul protested weakly. "So were wolves," Dr. Okonkwo replied. "Once." Nora slid down from Krath's back and pulled out the last piece of her granola bar. She held it up and the massive predator sat like an obedient pet waiting for a treat. The child made a gesture with her hand, a simple wave. Krath lifted one massive claw in an approximation of the motion. The observation deck fell silent once more, but this time it wasn't the silence of horror. It was the silence of species across the galaxy, realizing they had fundamentally misunderstood what humanity was capable of. They had seen human strength, human ingenuity, human stubbornness. But this was something else entirely. This was humans doing what they had always done, looking at the most dangerous thing in the room and seeing a friend. As Nora left the arena, waving goodbye to Krath, who watched her go with something that looked suspiciously like affection, Ambassador Thora turned to the human delegation with newfound respect and a hint of fear in her compound eyes. "Your species," she said carefully, "is far more dangerous than we ever imagined." Dr. Chen smiled. "We prefer to think of ourselves as friendly." And in the arena below, Krath curled up in the corner where Nora had been sitting, closed all 6 eyes, and for the first time since its capture slept peacefully.